Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Manny Talks Shooting is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. Did you know that Phil the Groundhog isn't the only thing Puxatawny, Pennsylvania is famous for? That's right, D2 Custom Guns, the home of Dan Heizenreiter and one of the best, fabulous 2011 builders in the country. So make sure you guys go check him out, D2 Custom, anywhere you can see him on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, go check him out. If you see myself, Patches Reader, anyone with the D2 Custom Guns, make sure you go check him out, and you will thank me later. Now, let's get on to the show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast that I do in my house on the internet because that's how you consume it. But as always, this show is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns, so go check them out, d2customguns.com. Order a gun in the off-season so then you can be ready before the main season starts. But our guest today is a man, a few words, very tall, and is very good at shooting. We are sitting down with Mr. Josh Froelich. Josh, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good.
That is
Good
excellent
to
to hear. Because it's probably really cold where you're at.
It is cold. However, it was like 30 degrees the last 2 days. And so I got some good reps in this week, which is good.
Were you wearing shorts?
No, many layers, all the layers.
I didn't, where I'm from in Michigan, I always remember people going, as soon as it got 30, they'd start wearing shorts again. And I'm like,
No.
I like my legs.
Yeah, no. I'm used to the cold weather, but I dress appropriately to make sure I can survive it.
Well, there you go. That's always a good one. That's always important because, if you're not prepared where you're living, it's going to be miserable.
Yeah, that's right.
That's for sure. So, Josh, some people may know you, some people may not. But I guess as my opening question is like, who are you? We'll start with there. Who are you? That's a better question.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Josh Froelich. Been shooting about a decade professionally. I shoot a lot, and I developed a career in and around this space. So I run a firearms media company. I own a gun range. I do training, and I shoot guns. So basically, built a life around the shooting sports because I love it so much.
Yeah, and that is pretty cool with what you've been able to do with your facility, your home. F5, right? That's what
Yep.
we call it. Okay.
Yep.
So I guess my first question is why is it called F5?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so I'll walk you through the logic. So I built my first company, like as a tax write off, right? Like we spent all this money on shooting, and I had some money coming in through training and some sponsorship stuff and that kind of thing. So I was like, I need a company so that I don't have to pay as much taxes on all of this stuff. And so I created Froelich Firearms, and so. Froelich Firearms was just an entity that sort of I ran all my shooting expenses and dollars through. And then when we bought this farm that I knew was going to be sort of this range complex farm eventually, like when you drive by a proper farm, they've got like a big farm sign, right? And a gate and all of that stuff, right? And so I'm like, all right, like this is the ranch, this is the farm. And so I need like a proper farm name. And so the F5 was Froelich Firearms, but I didn't want to put firearms out at the end of the driveway because I felt like that was grabbing potentially too much attention. So Froelich Firearms, farm, field, and forest. And I probably could have found another F, but like one of the things when I was trying to figure out what to do with it, F5 on the keyboard, on your like computer keyboard, it also means refresh. And so like when I get out of the city, that's back when I was working in tech, like get to my farm, like I'm refreshed, like this is where people come to sort of hit the reset button on a bunch of things. And so I was like, F5, there we go. That's the ticket. And then, so that was a farm name to start with and nothing else. And then I started doing some media work and named, that company was just Froelich Firearms. And then I got a client in the ATV, UTV space that a big brand, one of the big ones. And I couldn't submit an invoice with Froelich Firearms on it. They wanted me to have some kind of another name because they figured it'd be too much trouble getting my invoice passed through accounts payable. And so I was like, well, all right, F5, we'll be F5 Productions. And so it became F5 Productions, F5 Range. And we just sort of stuck with it because I liked it and it was easy.
Oh yeah, that makes total sense with all the Fs, but I do like the fact, F5 refresh, right? Not a lot of
Yeah.
people think of that. And
Yeah.
so before you moved to the farm, you said you were in the tech space, right? Were you in the firearms in the tech space, or was it completely like separate?
Yeah, so firearms was a hobby. So I was in business technology, business to business enterprise sales. Mostly, we were a VAR, so value added reseller, sold data center technologies and managed services to businesses. My clients were typically in the 300 to 3,000 employee space. And I did that coming out of college. And for like the first 7 years of my shooting career, it allowed me to have an expensive hobby, which shooting can be an expensive hobby. And so I had the flexibility because I was a sales guy and sold a lot. And so that industry was really good to me. But once we got out here, about a year after we moved to F5, I left that gig and just focused on my own businesses ever since.
So when you made that hurdle, were you nervous to make it succeed, or did you already knew you were going to be successful when you moved out to the farm?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you never really know when it comes to business, even month to month, right? Like you never really know. Like we've got a strong business at this point, but basically in 2018, I started Froelich Firearms. I had decent revenues, but I had high expenses, and I just built the thing for like 3.5 years into a production shop, into a training business, stuff like that. And so I knew we could pay the bills when I left the tech gig. But if I didn't grow, that was about all that was happening is the basic bills were getting paid. And so, but I'm a sales guy. Like I took that tech gig out of college for like no salary and on commission. And like my parents and my family thought I was nuts. My wife thought I was nuts. I'm like, no, 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 we're moving to the cities. It's better sales environment and there's no guarantee. And my wife's like, I don't know how you wrap your head around that every month. It's just, like where you have great risk, you have great reward typically in life. And, so I was used to that. I built a career in tech doing that, and that was good. And I knew that I could do it again for my own business. At least this I have total control over, right? Like if the tech company, if everybody was dropping the ball after I got the sale, like I'm screwed. But when you run your own shop and you're proofing all the media and doing all the sales and setting all the expectations and bringing in instructors, and it's like every one of these things, if it doesn't work the right way, I either need to spend more on marketing or I need to get different people. Like that's it, and I get to make all those decisions now. So I actually felt like running my own business was lower risk than being a sales guy at some big tech firm.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like our salesmen are always like that. It's like, well, yeah, I've got all these sales dollars coming in, but if the production company part can't fulfill the orders, I'm fucked.
Yeah, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do. And like you're not convincing somebody to go hire somebody if you're just a sales guy. And so like I was in that world forever. Like there were plenty of times where I'm like, I think we should charge more. Like I'm like, I want to charge more than what we're charging because I'm going to deliver excellent customer service and I'm attached to this customer for the next 3 years. So like if I get one sales commission and I have to take care of this customer for 3 years, I want to charge a lot because I'm going to take really good care of them, and this is my only time to get a commission. And the tech company was like, "Well, that's above market." I'm like, "I don't care. Like, I'll go get it because I'll explain to the customer, yes, we're above market rate. Yes, this is more expensive, but you've told me it's important to you to get a really good customer experience. So I'm going to guarantee that by charging enough so that I care the whole time we work together, right?" Like,
Mhm.
and there were times where the tech firm was like, "No, you can't charge that much." I'd be like, "You guys don't get it at all." I'm like, "I'm trying to get you more money." And so anyway, but like that's not robbing the customer. If the customer says it's important that they get really good customer service and I'm billing for that, like, as a business owner, I love that customer. Like, let's take really good care of them. You want to talk to me an hour every day? Let's go. I'm just going to bill you for it.
Mhm.
And right. I mean, like that's great. And so I just felt like I was in this little box even at a super cool, creative, nimble tech firm, they put, you get put in this box. And I just was pumped to get out of that and sort of build my own box, right? Build my own workspace and be flexible, nimble, and help solve customer issues and partner issues and all that.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of things to, tackle back then in the tech days. And then you decide, nope, moving to the country. I mean, even rural, more Minnesota. So I'm
Yep.
assuming you were in the Twin Cities when you were in the tech firm.
Yeah. Yep. I was in the Twin Cities. And for like the first 6, 7 years of my career, I called on like suburbia right around the Twin Cities here. And then as I got more and more comfortable with like who I was as a business professional and who I wanted to work with as my customer, I ended up calling on like the largest farm co-ops in the country. Like, so none of my customers, well, a couple of them, only a couple of my customers were even in Minnesota. Most of my business was done remote, and or I'd drive out there, fly out there, whatever. But these are my people. Like I wear a flannel, I grow a beard. Like I'm not the 3-piece suit salesman that calls on the attorney, the law firm downtown Minneapolis. Like I'm not that guy. Like I can be. I've done that. But the whole time I do it, I hate myself. Like I don't. That's not who I am.
Hmm.
And so like the last few years I found this super cool spot where it's like all those farm co-ops have like 75, 100, 300 locations, gas stations and feed mills and all this stuff. They all need tech, every site. And they're hard as hell to manage because you got so many sites. And so like it was fun because I got to be exactly who I am. I didn't have to put on some big dog and pony show. I just had to take really good care of the customer. And that allowed me to, once I started selling mostly remote that way, that's when I could move out here to the country out in Minnesota, get away from the cities. I didn't have to be close because my customers weren't there anyway, and sort of do my thing.
Gotcha. So did you have to build your own network system to have internet out in the rural lands of Minnesota?
Yeah, it was awful. When we got here, I couldn't make a phone call and I couldn't do a Zoom meeting. None of those things worked. And this is before you could get Starlink. Like
Hmm.
we've been here a little bit. And so, like, my first satellite piece was like just traditional satellite. And so I could be on video with you, but it'd be behind about 4 seconds. And then I had an analog phone line that had been here since, I don't know, 60s or 70s or whatever. And like that gave us like true audio. So I could have good, clean audio, but a terrible video, but we could be on a meeting. So most of my meetings were like, hey, here's the presentation that I'm running you through, right? So I'm this little thing on the bottom of the corner of the screen anyway.
Hmm.
So like if my mouth isn't lining up with the words you're hearing, I needed to make really compelling slide decks so that you paid attention to the presentation and not to me. And if we figured it out, I told them, again, farm co-ops. I'm going, hey, I'm in rural America, way out on my farm, and I don't have good internet here. And I actually think that helped me with some of these folks because I was one of them, right?
Hmm.
And so that worked. Then we got Starlink, that worked a little better. And then for the first time as an adult, I feel like some of all of those tax dollars that I pay in every month paid me back because I got this rural grant. All of my county did through our power company to put in rural fiber. And so, like, it would have been like a 6-figure build out to get us fiber out here because I'm nowhere near anything. But we
Hmm.
got I've got legit fiber here at my place, like 500 over 500. And for the first time ever, we're like modern world. We've got connectivity and it's great.
There you go. Yeah, that's probably got to be the biggest struggle probably out there. At first was like, well, I don't know how to really do my job without really good internet. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we figured it out. Luckily, I mean, I wasn't calling on tech firms, right? Like if you're calling on tech firms or like someone in that space or whatever, they're going to expect a super quality technology experience. I'm calling on farmers that, came up in like propane delivery companies, right? Like
mhm.
they're just going, yeah, we get it. Like my house doesn't have good connectivity either. So we made it work. I'm glad it's not that way anymore though.
Right, absolutely. So, when you moved to the farm, did you have to fix up the house at all, or were you able to start working on the farm itself?
Yeah, we fixed up, like, my office is modernized. I took the whole basement and turned it into my where I work. And
Mhm.
so basically, I mean, it was old school farmhouse, not old school, built in 2000, so modern enough, in good enough shape, to the point where my wife was like thumbs up when she saw it. So I'm like, okay, she shot down a bunch of houses over the last few years before we moved here. So that was a win. Farm was good enough, and yeah, our first project within, I'd say, 3 weeks of closing on the farm was to put up our first shooting bay, and that was just my practice. I knew I'd do some training and I'd do some other stuff out here eventually, but I knew first things first, I had to have a place to train here at the farm for myself, and so we got that done. I built basically like a 25 yard by 25 yard square shooting bay, three sides covered. Built it in the middle of an oak grove so that like the oak trees above it would catch a bunch of the extra sound. Try not to bug the neighbors like crazy, and uh, that was about it. We were broke. We had just spent all our money on this farm, or a big chunk of it on a down payment.
Mhm.
And so yeah, we just built the berm, brought a bunch of targets out, and that was it for the first year or so.
Right, and gosh, that's it's been a couple years now, but, then you said like you said, you were, started your journey, you were still working at the tech company, and you were a known big you'd say 3 gun was your biggest sport at the time, right?
Yep,
Mm.
yep, for sure. Yeah, three gun was the biggest sport, and I was making good money at both things at that point. I was running, doing a bunch of media work already. Wouldn't have called it a production company at that point, really, but like making good money doing some media, making a few bucks here and there, doing some training classes, stuff like that. And so, like, every dollar that I made that was anything shooting related got dumped right into the farm because I didn't need it because we had the tech gig that was paying all the bills. And so
Mhm.
we invested every penny for probably the first 3 years we were here into the facilities. Like added bays, built long range, all kinds of projects. Built, like redid a big old pole barn, turned it into a really nice, beautiful clubhouse. You know, um, Basically all the stuff that you would want if you wanted to run just a nice, small little event center range. And so we can host. We had probably our biggest event last year was right around 100 people. That's about as big as we want to get out here. Otherwise, you need roads and parking lots and all kinds of extra stuff like that. So, I'd say our sweet spot's like 30 to 50 people, and super high touch, high quality customer service. That's what we tried to build, something awesome to support.
Mhm. So you said, when you'd have people out, you'd be training them there at the farm. Um, was it mostly 3 gunners, or was it or was it shotgun? Was it all right? Was it rifle?
You name it. Yeah, we run every year. We run. I run an event called Modern Carbine, which is like AKs, ARs, whatever, and it's up close base stuff plus long range out to like 500, 450. And then we do a practical two gun event. We do a box fed shotgun event. Um, Early on, we were doing like a racing AKs event that was dedicated AK. I just sort of rolled that into the modern carbine thing. So basically, if I race it or shoot it and it's high capacity, we are running classes on it out here, and just like one or two a year of each topic. But yeah, it's a bunch of three gunners. You get a handful of random folks that just hear about it through a buddy and want to come out. So we get a good mix of, I'd call them like world class, awesome shooters will come out, mixed with some brand new folks. So we've found creative ways to sort of break those groups up inside of training. We run big events. So typically it's like two or three instructors when we do it. And we sort of segregate those groups based on experience level. So the top folks get to work on everything and get lots of reps in and go fast. And the newest folks get the white glove experience that they need to make sure that none of us get shot while they're on the range. Yeah.
Well, that is smart too because, you don't wanna be teaching them high race drag, speed drag racing, when they can barely hold the firearm in their hand.
Yeah, that's right. Or they just watched somebody who's a total rock star, run, 2, 3 people in a row. And then they're like, well, I guess I got to shoot like that. It's like, no, 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 no. Like just shoot at a level you're comfortable with, and we'll help you dial in that technique before you floor it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, 100%. I don't blame you there. So you do all these cool big events at the property. Uh, so I'll say, what is your favorite platform that you do teach or you shoot? Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, so I'm an AR nut, as it relates to both the like 3-gun rifle and PCC. So to me, there's no differentiation in a bay with how I train that platform. I like ARs. I like racing them. I like them. Call it 200 yards and in is where I love it. Beyond 200 yards, 200 to 600, I'd rather have a 308 or a 6.5 Creed or a bigger caliber. So like I'm all for shooting long range, but drives me a little crazy sometimes when you go to some 3-gun matches and it's like that target's 700 or 650 yards out. It's like, really? Like I don't have anywhere to train that. Neither does anybody else other than the 3 guys that have a membership at this club. Right. And so,
Exactly.
yeah. So it kind of drives me nuts when we do that. But like, I love training, call it 300 and in, even 200 and in with
Mhm.
the AR platform. And really just speed and accuracy stuff, man. Like we train a bunch of LE now, and I work with some military groups, and I mean all of those. Anyone I train with, it's like it's never a bad thing to be fast and accurate, and so that's where I focus the majority of the time and energy, is just helping people get hits on target quicker, and position themselves well so that they can continue to do that. First array, second array, while they're moving, whatever. And so if I could only train on one thing and only shoot one style of gun, it would be the AR platform.
Okay. Well, I would not have thought that. I would have thought you would have been like the shotgun. I thought it would have been like the gauge is my thing. You're a lumberjack from Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, so I'll tell you, at one point that you would have gotten me, I would have been like, yeah, that's the thing. But I should say it's getting better. But like when I shot World Shoot with shotgun, like there's nowhere to go with it. So like if you shoot ARs, like and you can race in like 10 different disciplines. Like you can shoot gas gun series for long stuff. You can shoot USPSA for PCC. You can shoot PCSL 2-gun, 3-gun. You can shoot whatever you want with an AR platform. But like if you're a box fed shotgun specialist, like where I was in 2018, you've got like 2 places you can shoot that. One of them's not in this country, right? Like IPSC, a shotgun. And so like you got to go somewhere else in the world to compete in one of those things. And the other one's 3-gun, where it's like one sliver of the game. And so like I have an advantage on shotgun. If I'm training it hard, I'm 250. I'm 6'1", big dude. So like I manage recoil like it's not recoiling. Like if there's one thing that my body's built to run faster than the little guys, it's a shotgun. But there's just not a lot of places for you to take that platform in this country and use it. Like even training. If I'm a specialist on shotgun, who do I get to train? A handful of 3-gunners here and there. But like if I'm a specialist on an AR, I get to work with military groups and law enforcement and all the comp guys. And like there's just this huge group of people that I can help. Where on the shotgun, it's like 100 dudes in the US.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, that's fun. But I did that. And now I'm going to work on this other thing.
Right, which makes sense. Hey, you're a businessman. You want to make sales, you got to sell it, and that's
Yeah.
what the rifle's going to be there for. I mean,
Yeah.
every blue-blooded American or red-blooded American's going to want an AR-15, right? Or a
Yeah.
rifle of some kind.
Yeah, that's right. And so pretty much everybody's got one. And
Mhm.
so like if you're running training classes that are like intro to the AR platform, intermediate AR, like that kind of stuff, like man, the general public is super interested in that because we can do things here at our facility like you're used to seeing on a competition stage where there's dynamic movement involved. It's not just standing still shooting at paper 15 yards down the lane, 1 shot per second. Well, we're right by Minneapolis and St. Paul here, and a lot of folks in the cities over the last few years with the riots and everything else, they bought ARs, and there's nowhere where they have ever been where they got to see what we get to do here, running around with them, shooting dynamic targets, like knocking steel over, like like that's not something that they knew existed. And so for a few $100 they can come out and shoot with us for a full day with world and national champion instructors. They didn't even know their guns could do that stuff, right? Like they leave here, they're hitting targets over 400 yards away, like they're shooting, moving. It's a blast. And so yeah, the market's freaking huge to help those kinds of folks. And when they leave here, like, they're actually competent, a little bit more competent than they were before they got here, and had never really done anything with that gun. And so it makes me feel good that, worst case scenario, they had to use that thing to protect themselves, their family, whatever. Like, we give them some real life skills to, harness the Second Amendment and do what it was designed for if they had to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I bet it brings a smile to your face because you're able to bring up that educational level and get to show your skills behind a rifle.
Yep.
So how long have you had a relationship with JP then?
Maybe 8 years. So probably 2 years in, I had an opportunity. I was shooting a Frankenstein gun that I'd built, and I threw a JP low mass carrier and silent capture spring in the thing. There's my 3-gun rifle. Like that changed a bunch. You take a stock AR, like something you bought at, Gander Mountain or Shields or whatever. And you drop like an adjustable gas block on it, a low mass bolt carrier group, and like a silent capture spring in the thing, changes the gun. It's a different gun at that point. You dial your gas back, and so my Frankenstein gun, I was pretty proud of it. I thought it was running pretty good. Like I was starting to learn how to shoot. I was probably B class, maybe sweating A class shooter at that point. But like loved the game, loved the people, really had fun. Was starting to figure this thing out, and I got an opportunity to shoot with John Paul. He's a Minnesota guy, or was a Minnesota guy, and so I shot with him, and he's like, "What? You should shoot one of our rifles." And I was like, "I would love to shoot one of your rifles. I have got some of your parts. They're very, very nice." And he's like, "Well, at some point you should talk to our team about that stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to. Like, you guys make like Ferraris. Like, yeah, I'm in. I'd want to race a race car if I'm going to race something." And nothing really happened after that for a little bit. But then I ended up maybe 2-3 months later getting hooked up with some of their guys, and it was like, I already running your parts. I already bought them. Like, I would like to shoot a complete gun. And ever since then, we've been partnered in one way, shape, or form. And they're good folks for sure.
Mm-hmm. So how, well, if you can or can't say, you can tell me that or not, but how involved were you with the design of the JP5?
Yeah, so not very with the design. In fact, early on, before I shot it, I was like, I can't believe they're going to mess with PCC. Like the GMR 15 just worked, right? Like it just worked, and that was at a point where everybody else's PCCs weren't working, right? Like most of them didn't run. If you had a JP GMR, it worked, and you were like way above the field. And so they're like, "Hey, we got a new PCC. We want you to put some reps on it." And I was like, "Oh, like dang it! I had something that worked. I'm shooting it pretty good. This is gonna suck," because I assumed it wouldn't work. Right? It's brand new. We're just testing it. Anyway, they sent it out, and basically I'm not a designer. I'm not an engineer, but I know what feels right, and I can give good feedback on what the gun's doing, because I feel probably more of what's happening in the gun than most people, just because I see the dot moving. I put lots and lots of rounds downrange, and I did about 200 rounds that first range session, and I was like, okay, this is pretty dang good. I was running race ammo, same ammo, like that Federal 130 grain PCC load that was designed for a 14.5-inch pinned JP GMR 15. Like I was involved in that ammo. And so I was like, I ran that in the JP5. I was like, this is good. Dot moves less. I'm like, I was just nervous if it would work, long term. Because I'm like, I understand the principle. Like you took most of the weight out of the operating system, right? Like that's reduced that by having that locking mechanism. And so because there's less weight, that means there's less dot movement when the bolt carrier moves back. You're not getting that muzzle coming up or that dot movement coming up. And then there's less of the muzzle dip when all that weight from a blowback AR slams home. Like, so like dot doesn't go up, dot doesn't go down near as much. So the dot movement turned that, what was, I'd call it, two sight picture required past 15-yard gun, GMR 15, any blowback. I need to see two sight pictures on a target to like, now I'm at 25 yards, and anything past 25 yards with the JP5 is a two sight picture target. So anything inside of that, it's just aim once, it's a good sight picture, send 2 rounds. So I liked it. I thought it was great, but I was still like nervous. I ran a GMR 13, GMR 15. I had like 6 years on GMR blowbacks. Again, nobody else's guns ran, mine did. And so it was, was nervous, but I did about 10,000 rounds through that first JP5 before I was like, all right, you got me. Like, let's go. And then it didn't get launched for like another 9 months. So I had that thing. I ended up with about 50,000 rounds on that first prototype gun. And it just worked. It ran great. And I was, at that point, pretty bummed that I couldn't compete with it because it's so much better than the GMR guns, the traditional blowbacks. So, yeah. So not involved in the development, lots of involvement in R&D and testing once the product was developed.
Right. And that's pretty cool because now you see it in like a lot. Now everyone's swapping out their JP rifles, getting another one, they're getting the JP5 if they can get one in their hands on it. It's probably cool to see that and see that you had a hand in making sure the gun ran
Yeah.
and showing it's kind of cool. Kicking butt and taking names. I mean, I wouldn't take you for. I mean, yes, you do shoot PCC, but I wouldn't take you as a guy who is going to destroy. Like you're a name in the sport that is kind of like a sleeper when it comes to rifles. That's how I put it, right? Because like, oh, Josh is a 3-gunner, but then you show up at PCC Nationals and kick in face. You're the tall guy on the squad. Like you popped up out of nowhere for me, honestly. Well, the first year, and then first year I was actually really paying attention to Nationals because. You don't always pay attention to Nationals when you first get in the sport because it's a hobby until it is a sport.
Yeah. Well, and if it's not your division, like if you were to ask me, like who won production last year, I have no idea. Who are the top 10 in open? I have no idea because I don't compete in those divisions. And so it's like once you try a new division and you start to care, like you start to figure it out. Sort of who's competing at the highest level in that game, and you can sort of see what they're working on and what they're doing and why they're excelling in it for sure.
Right. So, how'd you feel? So we'll talk about PCC Nationals this year or 2024. How did you feel your performance was?
This year, not good. I shot some good stages, but I didn't have I had train wrecks each day. Like in regards to, like over the last, since PCC, I shot every PCC national since there was such a thing. And this was my second to the worst performance. I've been second like 5 years or something like that. This was third. And then the first year I was fourth. And so I just didn't put the reps in needed to come to the party ready to shoot. Like didn't shoot dog shit. Like, don't get me wrong. Like a lot of folks are like, you're on the podium. It's like, I know, but like internally, when you leave a stage, if you feel like you shot it the best you could, or if you didn't, right? Like, that better than anyone else will ever know that. And I left that match with like 2 stages that I was proud of. It was one of those where it's like everything was just a hair off. And it was just a lack of training, a lack of really putting the reps in that I needed to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, and when you are your own boss, your division, your attention's divided. It's probably very divided when you're like, well, I gotta focus on this part of the business. I gotta worry about this. I've got this client's deadlines. I've got this.
Yeah.
There's your focus can be very be everywhere, and maybe it's your personal shooting that takes the hit.
Yeah, it was last year. It was my personal shooting. It was my fitness level. So I shot that match the heaviest I've been in a long time. So maybe 255. I'm down at like 241, somewhere in that neighborhood now. So I've lost quite a bit of weight since then. Pushing hard on that too to drop. See, it's one of those things where like for like 5 or 6 years, I was absolutely jacked, sport specific training, shooting every day, dry firing every day, like all the stuff that gets you to the dance, right? Like all the
Hmm.
stuff that gets you in the mix as a top shooter. And the last couple of years, it's been a lot less of that. It's been business guy, meetings 8 hours a day, not shooting after the meetings are over, and or I'm running a training class and I'm running it at like 75% because I'm trying to teach people technique, not go fast and loose, right? And so like training actually hurts. I believe teaching constantly can potentially hurt your match performance because you're not teaching at match pace. You're just not. You're
Hmm.
just trying to like slow it down a little bit so everybody can see the technique and then they can execute during your demos. And so I think there's a big mix of stuff toward the end of this last year that sort of all lined up to not be super proud of where I was, uh, the level I was shooting at, but took a ton of steps in the off season. I hired a bunch of dudes for my team. Last year, I was trying to do a lot of the jobs on my own and hire a bunch of media subcontractors, and then basically hired a bunch of dudes that are awesome at what they do, so that I can focus a little bit more on what I'm best at, which is the sales piece and the actual business side of things, and let my content team really execute on the projects that I bring in. And then that'll get me back to being able to shoot and train and focus on match performance, which is still a big part of what I would say I do for a living.
Hmm. So, what would you say? So, we're in 2025 now.
Yep.
What match is going to be your like? This is the one I'm going to tackle to dominate, win
Yep.
overall. Which one's that?
Yep. Well, so first one of the year, yeah, I'm coming into. So I'm going to shoot PCSL two gun at the ranch in Texas, and that is in like I think that's March. So I'm ramping up now. I shot a little local match indoors this week. Been dry firing. I'm on my fitness regimen, hardcore, and I'm doing all the stuff again that I was doing when I was learning how to shoot to get ready to go. So first and foremost, I want to start the year proud of my shooting, right? Like that's how I'm going to take some momentum into the year. So I'll shoot that PCSL two gun at the ranch, kick us off, go down there and kick some butt in practical division, which is like shoot an AR and a pistol, like limited optics pistol and my AR. And that'll be good. And then the other pieces are PCSL Nationals at the end of the year, which I shot that rather poorly at the end of the year as well. Similar time frame as like the PCC, except I shot a little worse at PCSL. So and then PCC Nationals. That's always a flagship match for me. Like working with JP, their flagship product is their JP5, and I just want to go down and show what that thing can do at those matches. So I like that match. I think the heat in PCC division, like last year's Super Squad, like I think everyone on the squad was a national or world champ at some sport, IDPA, USPSA, IPSC, like everyone on the squad could throw down, which was awesome. In years past, it's been like half a dozen, half the squad, three-quarters of the squad could take any stage. Last year was, you name it, anybody on the squad could absolutely own it. So that was fun, and I like to see that growing. So that's a highlight match for me this year as well.
Hmm. Well, it'll be nice to watch those and see how you perform at all these large matches for yourself. I'm excited to see where PCSL is going. I think Max is doing a cool product with that with his sport, so it'll be nice to see that grow as well.
Yep.
Um, and I know you said you weren't happy with your performance at PCSL Two Gun Nationals, but how did you think the event ran?
I thought it was great. Yeah, no. I love that sport. I like how technical it is in the bays, like USPSA style technical shooting in the bays, which I've always liked. And hit factor to me is important. 3 guns, fun. All of that stuff's fun. But 2 on paper, you get sloppy. And I really appreciate hit factor scoring after shooting everything for a long time. That's my favorite. And then just the presentation between Jason at Targets USA and Max and his whole crew. The matches they put on are beautiful. They're well thought out. There's not some gotcha that like 5 dudes figure out is a shortcut on some stage because nobody paid attention. Like they think everything through, and they're a bunch of analytical guys that are reaching for something special. And so I love that game. I'm going to spend a ton of time in it moving forward.
So, I believe you can tell me I'm wrong or not, but I believe that you guys had you and your media guys were out there for the event as well, getting
Yeah,
video.
yeah. I've had guys out there at most of those matches. At least one guy with me.
Gotcha. So, that's your thing you've been lately. I think, started what, 2022 USPSA Carry Optics Nationals. I think it was in Talladega where USPSA, like you went in, you had killer media of the event. You made it very prominent, and it was a departure from what they were normally used to.
Yep.
Us, at least from shooters, seeing from an event at nationals. It was really nice to see. I even remember I messaged Jake that day, and I'm like, "Whose idea was this?" Well, it was, kind of mine, kind of Josh's. I'm like, "Okay." So then he's like, "Well, you tell the board that I did a good job." Then, so I'm like, "Okay." I only got a couple of responses and emails, but I think that's where I noticed, F5. I mean, it was big, it was cool.
Yeah.
It was a departure from the norm, which was nice to see, and I like to see that it keeps evolving every big match you get contracted to do.
Yep.
So you're a media guy. You do a lot of stuff in this industry, for clients, right?
Yeah.
Um, from what I see in the aspect is, us as shooters pretty much make the same type of content to appeal to our group of 30 to 40,000 people. You and your business are, trying to expand your horizon on, the demographic, who you reach with your marketing.
Yep.
Thank you for checking out another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, please go patronize our partners when you are available. We have always, as the title sponsor, D2 Custom Guns. We've got Outdoor Dynamics, Make Stuff Better, 2 Alpha Apparel, Range Panda, Laugh and Load, Hunter's HD Gold, and Southern Bobby Q. Now, thank you. Let's get on with this episode. Without giving away all your secrets, how do we change how we do media within our own little niche?
Yeah, like you referenced, it depends what the goal is, right? Like, what's the goal? And every piece can have its own goal. I mean, like, there doesn't have to be necessarily a sport trend, because part of it, our biggest consumer of our shooting match content is us.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I can only deliver maybe 10% of a brand's content that we're responsible for. Like, we produce content for 60 brands today, a little bit over 60 brands in the firearms industry and outdoor industry today.
Mm-hmm.
And even the ones that are heavy focused on competition, like, we can only do like 10% match stuff, because otherwise we have to be tighter on product, or we have to be tighter on lifestyle, like whatever. We have to sell it more for a new shooter. There's a million different things that can be important as it relates to the media and what you're doing. But I think if you pick a piece and you go, okay, what are the important things to me about this sport? Okay, I want to grow it. All right. So some of our content has to be reaching the new shooter. That's for sure. I want to sell people in that this is like a fun and exciting thing. Okay, great. Well, some of that content better just be of people having a damn good time, because I want them to see it and be like, man, I want to be at that thing, right? It's a little less intimidating seeing a 12-year-old kid smiling with his dad and like a couple other dudes hanging around and then a little bit of shooting mixed in than it is watching 5 of the top dudes in the country shred. It's like, it's hard to get some new guy to go, I could go do that, when they're just watching people shred constantly, right? And so it's mixing some of that stuff in. And then ultimately, if we want more sponsors in the sport, man, we better damn well show off their products really well. And that's not a video from 100 feet back showing some guy shoot with it. That's nice, tight shots on product. That's mixing in branding. That's all of those kinds of things to make sure that the brand that we were hoping to highlight or that is sponsoring us is getting like legitimate love. Like if they were producing it themselves, like did they get that close up that's in focus of the gun? Like did we show a shot going in slow mo so you can see that thing shooting like beautifully? Like how did we show off that sponsor's product? And that could be a million things, but like depending on what the product is, like getting creative around showing it off. And so I sort of have to do all of those things at all of the events and any of the projects we do. And so like I'll pick a piece though in that mix. Let's say I'm going to produce 10 things at a match. I'm producing one or two to like get people into shooting. So if a new shooter had never shot our match, they want to come. Smiles, people high fiving, people thumbs up, like people having a really good time. I'm going to pick a handful of the biggest sponsors at the match, and I'm going to highlight their people, their products, whatever. I'm going to make them look good. Tight shots of branding, big, banners, whatever it is, right? I'm going to mix that stuff in. So all the biggest supporters that help make our match happen feel like they got a good investment by investing in the match. And then I'm going to produce another 20 to 30% of the content of dudes shredding, crushing, because that's what we as a community want to see. Like, and so like we sort of set different goals for different pieces of content, and then we just make sure it's well rounded and covers all of our goals. And then that's the project matrix, or that's how we design or the creative around what we're going to make when we go to an event.
Oh, that makes sense, and I like how you put it. You got to be able to, you got to give the sponsors of the event really good love in their products. You got to be able to highlight those. You got to show people having fun, because if they're not having fun, how are they going to go and do that, explore that? I
Right.
mean, it's like you're not like you're going to go try to sell somebody on we'll say a jet ski, well, not a jet ski, but an ATV or a UTV. You're not going to sell somebody driving grandma slow with it. You want to show them going fast
Yeah.
with it, or going
Yeah.
up and down hills, or there's always these cool, you got to show it, and it makes sense with all this, and and as always, I don't know if you hear it a lot, but I hear it in different avenues or different pockets of the sport. Oh, we got to grow it, we got to grow it. I'm like, well, one, you got to be boots on the ground, finding these new shooters somewhere, but finding them ways and avenues, like content wise, to bring them in to be like, oh, I want to try that.
Yep.
Because when you talk to a real shooting nerd, they're gonna be like lost and blank faced, because it's like, what are you talking about? I don't even. You've already lost them because you've gone too far in the weed.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's a balance. And I mean, again, every match, some of it's just fun.
Mhm.
I want people to just see some video and be like, man, that's fun video. Like that turned out awesome. Like, so it's a little bit of everything, but I'd say ultimately, if you set goals on the front end, like what's the most important thing? Why am I making media? Why am I making content? And then just figure out and prioritize like how much of each kind. And then you got yourself a project plan, and you can do that for yourself. If you're a sponsored shooter, or you're some dude that likes the sport, wants to become that kind of a brand ambassador for brands or whatever, and you're making cool content, you like, even if your buddy's the one running your phone on, behind you getting your stage video, like chop that thing up, man. Get like a little editing app on your phone and get some nice tight shots on the safety table of your pistol, like in perfect focus. That looks beautiful. Get some nice tight shots of the ammo boxes that you're loading your ammo out of. Like mix that stuff in, because like if you want to work with brands, like, yeah, cool, you can shred. But like, do you know how to show stuff off and like make us look good in that content too? Because if you do, awesome, you have a better likelihood of working with those brands because you're adding value. If it's just your back and you got some logos on your shirt and you're shooting like a boss, that's way less marketable to the sponsors and the brand partners too. So like anybody can take something from that if you want to maybe play a little bit further in the space, do some
Mhm.
sponsorships and work with some brands.
Well, and it kind of says is what I'm getting from your thing is, effort really matters on that, right? Like if you put low budget effort in, you're going to get low budget returns out. So it's just kind of like you talked earlier. You're charging more to your sales client, your customer, because you're going to give them the best customer service possible. Same thing as like,
Yep.
if the more effort you put into that customer, the more returns you're going to see. Just like in your content, the more effort you put in your content, the more views, the more likes, the more shares, the more noticeable you are in space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that goes on forever. That never stops working as you progress. Like I've got partnerships today that are super strong that are I wouldn't have believed I'd have 10 years ago. But like whatever I've committed to with those brands, I crush those numbers. Right? Like if I committed to do a video a month or like shoot a match a month or like whatever my commitments are inside of that contractual agreement, I knock those things out of the park because like then I can go back, a year later and go, all right, so here were our goals. Here's what I actually did. And it's always coming from a position of value creation, right? I'm never going in there going, I wish I would have like this year would be different. Like, trust me, like you go into that conversation in a strong position because you've added consistent value. And that works in any space, life in general, work, shooting, you name it. Just come with value and overdo it, like under promise, over deliver, and
Mhm.
you make something happen.
Right. And I think people do things for a lot less than what they should do. Like they get that jersey with the name on their back and they're like, "Yeah, I'll do this for a free doodad or a sticker," right? Kind of thing. It's like
Yeah, well,
don't sell yourself short.
hey, on the front end, I'll give you an example. This is kind of silly, but I think it's important. So my first year shooting,
Mhm.
I went out and bought a Vortex 1-4 scope back when they had their 1-4s. Went out and bought that thing. And I reached out to the owner at Vortex and was like, hey, listen, I know how to market. I know how to sell. I'm an up and coming shooter. You wouldn't know me. I'm no big deal. But I just bought your stuff and I really like it. And I'm going to be at like 50 matches this year. And if you send me a ball cap and a throw lever for my new scope, I'm going to spend the rest of the year crushing it to show you how hard I'll work for you guys. And the guy's like, okay, yeah, you want a ball cap and a throw lever for that scope? You're like, yeah, okay. He introduced me to one of the guys. He's like, work with this guy. That was it. That was an all year. I sent him sales referrals. I did videos. I did whatever. And then year two, I'm like, okay. Year one was like, I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do. Now that we're at year two, this is what I would like to do with you guys. And there we're in. And so, like, in a scenario like that, I went after a huge company. I over delivered on the front end with almost zero in return. And they're still one of my strongest partners today. And they wouldn't have been had I not gone in and like earned it first, right? Added
Mhm.
value first. Like I was a paying customer. I bought, a $500 scope at the time, which was a lot of money for me at the time. And like I bought the product, was a fan of the product, wanted a ball cap so I could show it off and throw a little accessory on there. And man, I probably did, I don't know, 30 grand worth of work that year for him.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Like, constantly like talking to people about their product, the brand, like all that stuff. Like if I were a paid sales guy, I would have made a bank. But it was one of those things where it's like, here's a strategic brand partner that I want. I'm going to add a ton of value, and then later I'll ask. Uh, Basically, get them to the point where like they can't imagine not having you around, right? And then it's like I'll have an ask then. So there's two ways to look at those sponsorship things. One, like if you see that partner as like future brand, want to work with them long term, like you align with their values, like you're excited about their products, you'd buy it anyway, or you already have. I think it's okay to jump in super cheap and just go, hey, listen, like this year is about me showing you what I can do for you. Because you're playing the long game at that point. But if it's just some brand that you don't really care about and they want to throw some stickers, a patch, and a couple magazines at you or something like that, I would challenge if that's worth doing anyway. Like because they're going to feel like you owe them something, and people are going to feel like they don't. And so now all of a sudden you've got this missed expectation on the front end. And so I'd always challenge like play the long game, find partners that you'd buy their stuff whether they worked with you or not, and then align with them however you can and prove that you're worth it. That's been my strategy.
It's been a very effective strategy. As you said, you're still with Vortex. Better question is, do you still have that ball cap?
No, long gone. I should have framed that somewhere all sweaty and gross.
Yeah, shadow
Yeah.
box with the hat that started it all.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I mean, similar stories, with a bunch of brand partners,
Mhm.
where it's just like, on this front end, I'm just going to buy your stuff and show it off. And when you can't tolerate me going to do something else because we're adding so much value, then it's time to negotiate an agreement, where I stick around and I keep doing it.
Mhm. No, it makes perfect sense and absolute sense. So, to date, what has been your favorite your favorite project you've worked on that you can share? I mean, there's always the problem with NDAs that
Yeah, well, I do a lot of R&D. So one of the things, I get to work on product for partners that the community knows I'm aligned with, and for lots of brands that nobody would know that I'm aligned with due to NDA stuff. But I do like 2,500, 5,000, and 10,000 round product R&D agreements with brands all over the gun space. And folks will send me product, and I will beat the hell out of it. I will break a bunch of stuff on it, and then I get to see and make recommendations on it, and send it back. And so it's been fun. I've probably been involved in maybe a dozen things that went to market in the last 2-3 years that would be notable, and then probably a dozen things that never made it to market because everything broke when I got it. Like, guns and equipment are machines, and everything breaks at some point. But if everything breaks at once and it's early, uh,
Mhm.
maybe you got a problem. And so I get to work on those things. I'm working on a couple of them now, and I love it. And I think that's fun. Again, I'm not a designer, I'm not an engineer, but I can feel and see things that a gun does that most people probably can't. I'm over 1 million rounds in my life at this point. I shoot over 100K a year, have been for a long time. And so, like, I just feel and see things a little different than most people probably do, when they're shooting guns, and can give some really good feedback. And so that's fun to see those products come out. Like, I was at SHOT last week, saw a couple of them getting launched, and that's all fun. And then on the media side, I'd say the early stuff was my favorite because it scared me to death. Like, when we were first starting out and we were producing our own content and like selling it to brands, like, I'd never done it, was scared to death. Like, I like stuff that scares the crap out of me, and then we go and execute. Right? Like, anytime you do something new, like that first USPSA match, we went there going to prove something, right? Like we sold it way too cheap. We included way too much media. Like, we did 30 videos in 3 days during the match. Like, one every 60 minutes was delivered on social. Like, way over delivered. But like, those kind of projects to me, where you go in, you got a core group of people that you trust that are total pros, and it's like, all right, we have either committed suicide here by project, or we're going to crush this thing. And I believe we're going to crush this thing. And so, rallying together as a team and then executing on something that scares the hell out of you is so much fun. And so, I think those are the most rewarding for sure from a media side. Is it's just like, something scares the hell out of you, let's just go after it and execute and crush it. And they're fun.
Mhm. Yeah, and then you get that pay value of, we did that, I got a check, but we did that.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. We actually completed the scope of work,
Mhm.
and everyone was happy, and we can all high five when we were going in sweating bullets.
Exactly, yeah, after you sweat the bullets, and then you can calm down and then be like, "Well, we're gonna sign another contract for another some more media."
Yeah, yeah. We actually did make an adjustment the next year. So that first year we were doing uh, way too much.
Mhm.
Big team, not super profitable. Um, But yeah, year two, we dialed it back just a little bit, dialed back budget too. And then maybe the biggest change now is, so we do like 12 to 15 events a year now that we do coverage at, but most of the events can't stomach a big old check that they cut to you, right? To
Mhm.
have a media company come there. And so at this point, having F5 productions come out and cover a match, it's a few grand. It's not a big deal. As long as the match gives us complete rights to produce whatever we want while we're there. Because then I have all the partnerships. Again, we do business with 60 brands. And so if the match goes, yep, we get a couple videos a day throughout the match, and you can produce whatever you want while you're here. We make it super affordable for them. We'll go anywhere in the country for the most part. And we'll just produce, 10 more videos a day for our other brand partners while we're there. And so the match gets something amazing that costs about what it would cost to have some freelance dude that maybe can pull it off, maybe can't, except you get a total pro team that comes down and does it. And then bonus, we put their match in content for dozens of the biggest brands in the space, showing off their products at those matches. And so their match gets some extra love on big places they wouldn't have otherwise got. And they get some great content for their own channels, which is cool too. So that's sort of the sweet spot where pretty much any match in the country could afford to have us there if it's a major match. And then it's just a matter of like, does it fit into our schedule? So we're super busy, which is great.
It's a good problem to have, if you're super busy, it means you're making money.
Yeah, we're busy for sure. And again, busy doing something awesome. Like we get to show off the sport that we love. Like, and so that allows me to go and compete at cool events all the time. It allows us to make payroll, which is a positive. And I get to compete in those events when I go down there. Sometimes distracted, not always my best performances when I'm running a media team while I'm there. But there's a reason that we spend time in this space because we love it. So it's fun to get to go to all that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can imagine. So you mentioned a couple minutes ago you went to SHOT Show.
Yeah.
Did you come back with a crud?
I didn't, but I brought all in. We had 6 dudes, well, 5 men, 1 woman that went down and were on the crew for the show. And one was puking like crazy when she got home, and another one had a nasty cold. So I think we're at like 30% of our crew got sick coming home.
Now, have you gotten how many times have you actually gone to SHOT Show then?
I think this was the 6th year that I've been at SHOT.
So how many times have you come home or gotten sick when you've gotten home?
2, and it was violently sick 2 of the 6 times. It was not good.
Yeah, I don't. That's everyone goes, and the biggest part of SHOT Show is not the guns and the cool gadgets and the gizmos that comes out. It's like, did I get sick or not?
Yeah. Well, I live like an old man at this point. I don't drink anymore. I don't. We work so hard. So like when I go to SHOT, we produced 10 videos a day for 5 days straight. Our team did. So like we're producing content there for our brand partners. And so we're working from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed, and we're not doing after parties. We're not getting wild. And so for us, it's a work trip, but yeah, you're shaking like 300 people's hands a day that are out there causing all kinds of trouble and partying hard and living a little rough for the week. And so like immune systems are broken down because you're working hard, and yeah, it's pretty easy to get sick.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you weren't there creating content for your brand partners, would you go to SHOT Show?
Depends. Yeah, probably not. If it wasn't, because the R&D stuff, I already get to see a chunk of the product that's coming ahead of time. I shouldn't say that. Yeah, I'd go because I get to see all of my partners in one place for the most part. Even if I was only there for like the years that we haven't had a big media project, I've gone Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday to see current partners, Wednesday to do sales. And so, I think even if there's no business attached to the show itself, doing like 1 day to see people in the industries is a cool way to do it. 5 days to see some nice people. I don't care how nice you are. I don't want to go to Vegas for a week to get sick for a couple of conversations with buddies that I could see at a match. So
or an email or a Zoom.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, those Tuesdays in and out were fantastic. I did that a couple times, and I thought that was such a great way to do the show when I didn't have a bunch of stuff to produce.
Right. So, as a media producing content, content producing media company. God,
Yeah.
maybe I should drink coffee longer in the day, I guess. But in a shot show, there's always the people who I feel I've never gone to shot, but through the lens of watching people's content, there's the people who don't belong at shot. That should be a video. Be like, now, does that ever bother you, or like, hey, you're in my way, I got shit to do, like.
No, I mean, it doesn't. We've got appointments at every booth. We've got
Mhm.
partnerships, and so like there's very little of us wishing that we just were able to get done what we need to get done. Most of our partners that are there that we're producing content for, like they paid to have us there. So like as soon as we get there, they want us to get done what they want done, and
Mhm.
so that piece is fine, but. I get a kick out. I try to understand how could they fund the whole week? Like, how are they paying for themselves to be there? If they, I don't understand how the money works for some of the folks that probably don't belong at the show. I mean, it's an industry show, and that's all I mean. I don't mean that we're better than anybody. I just mean that we are in the industry, F5,
Mhm.
and we produce content for the industry. We own a gun range. I have my FFL. We are an SOT. Like we have licenses and business revenues associated with this. This is what we do for a living.
Right.
And there are a lot of folks that don't, and I don't understand how they, if this is a vacation for them or like, because they've got cameras and stuff, but I don't know where they put any of the content.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like I had a couple buddies go in 23, and it's like, yeah, I'm going as my buddies plus one. I'm like, what are you gonna do there? You're gonna go look at guns and take
Yeah.
up like shot show is the industry's place to do business. It's like it's not the
Yeah.
NRA show that Joe Schmo can go to. And this is my biggest like my biggest thing is why I don't go. I don't know. I don't feel like I have I would say, I'll put this in quotes, right to be at SHOT Show. You know, I do this podcast. I mean, yes, I'm a competitive shooter. I do this podcast. I do it for fun.
Yeah.
I'm not making money out of it, as you know. Like I'm doing it for the freaking hat and the throw lever right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. But even with that said, when I was at that point in the show, what I did then was I would ask my partners, "Hey, would it be valuable if I sort of supported your booth and talked product with some of the folks that come over, the dealers and stuff?" And so, like my earliest shot shows were me working at a booth, one of my brand partners, and just helping out for a day, and then wandering the next day to sort of check out what everybody else had going on. So, like like if that's something that you want to do, there's cool ways to partner with people that you care about, add a bunch of value for them, and then also like have a place in the biggest gun show on the planet.
Mhm. Oh, that's another good way of putting it. But yes, I never thought about it that way. And I do like I think that's gonna stick with me forever. The hat and the throw lever.
Yep.
But, I still, like I said, I think that hat should have been like shadow boxed, framed, even.
I probably screwed that up. Yeah.
It's okay. It was a hat. Yeah, it's the meaning of the hat, but no, it's all good. But
Yeah.
so you just met with all your brand partners. You probably got some. Now you got to spend a bunch of time still editing, probably videos from shot still, right?
No, done deal. Yeah, done deal.
I
Our
guess that's why
edit,
you take 6 people with you.
yeah, and I don't do any of it, by the way. I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Um, I could figure it out, but early on in the process, I was like, man, I need to be working on sales, running the business, managing the project like timeline effectively. Like basically, my job at Shot was um, build the calendar. So we had like 60 stops for different media guys and different media crews to stop at and get content, and then keep everybody on schedule and make introductions at some of the booths that I knew would be nuts. So I'd go there, introduce my team to the people that needed to be on the videos, and I'd go, "All right, you guys are up. I got to go to a meeting." So like I'm the project manager. Like that's
Mhm.
my job of the bunch, and then I hire people that are total studs at the editing and the video capture and on-camera hosts and all of that stuff. So Monday by end of day, all videos were complete and delivered. which is way ahead of schedule.
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, that's why you bring on it's why you bring on all those people to do all the work so you can spread out the workflow.
Yep.
Now, I'm assuming people like the guy doing the camera work or the person doing the camera work was also the person for the most part editing it, right?
Nope.
And no.
Nope. Yeah. So we're big enough to the point now where that would cost way too much time. So we keep an editor in the press booth all week at a show like Shot,
Mhm.
and he is there grinding content out from his first edit starts at about 9:30 on the first day. As soon as we bring him some cards, so he's got data to actually work with, and he wasn't done editing until Monday night after we got back. And our camera crew stays out capturing more content the whole time. Same way we do it at the matches. We've got dedicated editors in the back of that camper we pull up. We run a 50-foot toy hauler fifth wheel editing studio and like living room and like workspace. And that garage in the toy hauler, so the back 14 feet, is a complete editing studio. And our editors, they come out like to get some sun and hit the bathroom, but like they're grinding the whole time because it can take 10 minutes to get the video capture, but he's got an hour long edit to make it cool. And so yeah, it's a separate team, post production and content capture.
So when you do that, you've got your camera guy. I'm assuming your camera guy has to drop off a physical content card
Yep.
to the editor. We're not that fancy with like Bluetooth, video transfer yet.
No, well, and files are huge. So
Right, because you're probably what, 4K at minimum, right?
4K, yeah, most of the interview stuff's like 4K 30, but the moment we hit the range, we're 4K 60
Mhm.
on or higher on anything. So giant files. So yeah, it's a physical card swap, like call it every 90 minutes at a show like Shot. So every other interview, there's someone, not necessarily the camera crew, we're just swapping cards on their cameras, and then someone from the team is running cards back to editing, and then getting the cards dumped, and then runs them back as the new backup card for our content capture team. So a lot of logistics on it to make it all work and not screw something up in the process, but we've got uh, probably 50 of these kinds of projects under our belt at this point. So we've got a system.
Mhm. Now, are all these folks who work for you, are they all contracted employees or they actually work for F5?
Yeah, so we've got we just hired 7 people in the last 6 months. So we have 7 W-2s, and then on camera talent. So like Crystal Dunn's a good friend of mine. We put her on camera interviewing people from time to time. We got a handful of others too, but she was our host for Shot interviewing folks. She's not a W-2 employee. She runs her own business, so like she's a contractor that we
Gotcha.
hire. But yeah, I'd say 80% of the folks we use today are now W-2s, and we leverage about 20% subcontractors as needed, depending on some specific skill set requirement that we may or may not have in house, or even logistics. At a certain point, we don't have 100 employees; we have 7, and so it's like, there are times where, like if I for instance, in April, I'm on the road for 4 months or 4 weeks. And so I go from 3 matches in a row plus a media shoot down in Texas. I don't want any of my employees to have to be gone for a month. Their families are going to hate them and me. And so
Mhm.
like I'm going to run, they'll want my lead camera guy will come with for a week, and then I'll fly him home. And then another camera guy will show up for a week, and then I'll fly him home. And I may need a subcontractor in there to support those guys while they're running the show for their week, so that I don't have to bring the whole crew to Texas for a month and have everybody quit on me at the end of the month, right? And so there's a little bit of that because we're still a small shop. We've got about 15, 16 people that work with us, but about half of those are contractors as needed.
Well, that's cool. It's probably gives you the warm and fuzzies being able to know that you're able to at least employ 7 people, and
Yeah,
your business is that big and you have the demand for it. I mean,
yeah.
I bet there's a lot of people wishing they were in your shoot well. Maybe in your shoes. I don't know if they want like size 14 shoes, but
Yeah.
at least they can find shoes.
Yeah. Well, and there are days where it feels awesome to have a super strong team, and that's every day. But then there are days where it's like payroll's coming up, and my accounts receivable. I've got a whole bunch of money that I'm waiting on. Like it's a business thing, so it's like you got to be comfortable with the hard times when you're running a business. And there are months. Today we're what are we 7 years into this thing, there are months where I don't take a paycheck. I can't take a paycheck because we weren't that profitable. We had huge bills come up that month or whatever, had to buy new equipment, this or that. And so running a business is fun, most of the time. And then sometimes you're like, man, this sucks. Like we didn't make any money this month. And I still got to pay everybody.
Mhm.
It's one of those things where it's like, that's why, I love it when I think I get a kick out of it when I see like the internet go after like the Elon Musks of the world and stuff. It's like you got no idea that guy has to make payroll for like 10,000 people. Like people have no idea like the amount of stress that I got like 7 people. Like it's no big deal, but still on payroll on a down month, that sucks, man. But like on the good months, it's like all right, like I'm gonna ride this because we made a ton of money this month, and so like being an entrepreneur is fun most of the time. I just put it that way.
Mhm. Yeah, for the most of the time, the headaches, the stress, the gray or the white hairs in the beard,
Oh
or
yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
hey, it's okay. We wouldn't shame you if you dyed it just to make it look more.
Oh no, I'm going for the old wise man at this point.
You're gonna go for the Uncle Si Duck Dynasty beard.
Yeah, that's coming.
Yeah, only if your wife will let you.
Oh yeah.
I remember when I was growing up and that show was big. My dad, he grew like a big old Uncle Si beard, and it turned, freaking pure white. I'm like, how? Like, what the hell? And he did it. And it looked funny, but he finally shaved it off and went back to the goatee. Thank the Lord. But
I haven't been clean shaven since 2012. I've had a full beard since 2012.
I
So
thought you were gonna say since I was born.
no, I couldn't grow a beard till I was like 17 and a half.
Yeah, but so so did they call you like Paul Bunyan growing up, or were you never not picked on like that?
No, nothing too bad. I was a giant, so that sort of hurt everybody's chances at that. Like sixth grade football, I was like 210, 6'1". I was the same height I am now in sixth grade. So sixth grade football, I crushed kids, and it was like I needed a reality check is what I needed because I thought I was king shit. I thought I was going to be like pro football player and whatever else. It's like, no, I had a man's body and I was playing football against kids. So, but yeah, so no, not much. I didn't get too much shit when I was little.
Gotcha. Well, man, Josh, this has been a blast. I've had a great time. I've learned a lot. Really, I've learned a lot about different things that I'm gonna, go back and take for myself, and hopefully people learned on it too and caught it, and during our conversation. But before I fully wrap the show up, this is the part where I like to give the guest the floor to promote, pimp, whatever you want to call it. Your partners. You have a bunch of partners, probably no sponsors, but a bunch of partners that you call it, because I call them partners too. I don't necessarily call them sponsors, but
Yeah.
that's your chance to go ahead and do that if you'd like. If not, you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, I'd say what we would love to share with the shooting community is high end experiences. And so we built our F5 range facility out here in a way that allows us to give almost like a all inclusive experience for our guests. And so, like, if you see something that we're hosting up here from a training perspective that looks interesting, I bring in many of the top shooters in the country to instruct alongside me. We have a 9 bedroom, 10 bath, 4,400 square foot guest house that we put all of our guests in when they come and shoot with us. We have a chef that cooks meals. We do something very cool here for a pretty affordable price, and we offer great training. And so it's our absolute honor to have folks come up and shoot with us, and we love getting to know the community that way. And so, yeah, if there's something that you guys are interested interested in. All of our partners, all the brands that I partner with personally are represented when you come up. So you'll get to try, Federal ammo and JP M16. Like we're machine gun nerds here too. So if every training session ends in machine gun shoot, so we just have a party and have a good time. So yeah, like if that's interesting, and you want to get some training and you want to do something cool, come shoot with us at F5. That would be cool.
Now, Josh, if they want to get a hold of you, if they want to, they want to take a training class up at your facility or whatnot, where's the best place or avenue to reach you?
Yep. So f5range.com for anything shooting, or any of the Instagram channels. So like Josh_Froelich or F5 Range, F5 Productions for anything media. If you're a match director, you want some great coverage, like talk to me, F5 Range or f5productions.com. Basically just look up F5 and you will find us, and we will help you solve whatever thing that you are trying to solve. Like, we love working with cool people and doing cool things.
And that is pretty awesome. And I'm glad you're able to do that and you're able to share your love for media content, the outdoors, the firearms enthusiasts, just having a good old time and putting out great and excellent content for everyone to absorb. So, Josh, man, I want to thank you for hanging out with me this Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? I think my days are all messed up anyway. This great Wednesday evening at the end of January, and I thank you.
Yeah, cool. Had fun. Thanks for the conversation, and hopefully we catch up on the range sometime this year.
Hopefully. And to my listeners, I say every time, get out and do the things. I'm going to see you on the next one.